Are you tired of feeling tired? Are you struggling with vitality? Or does your body just not feel great? Join today's hosts Monique Bradley and registered naturopath Lynette Hill to talk about your health. It's Health Bites, bite-sized pieces of health and wellness information so you can own your health. No, my heart and my welcome to the YourFixTV studio. I'm Monique Bradley here for Your Fix, and tonight it's a big topic. We are talking about diabetes type 1 because it's Diabetes Action Month, and I am here as always with our guest expert. This is the lovely Lynette Hill, registered naturopath from My Remedy. Kia ora, Lynette.
Hi, Monique.
And also in the hot seat, he is the meat in tonight's proverbial sandwich. This is Andrew Good. He is a diabetes warrior doing great work to help spread the message of diabetes and how to maintain your health, and working a lot with young people living with diabetes. Kia ora and good evening to you.
Hey Monique, hey everyone.
Hey, nice to have you on the studio, Andrew.
Thank you.
Look, tonight is really a big topic, and remember, as always, because we're live, feel free to message in, ask questions, say hi, be part of the conversation, and remember, if you've got friends or family who may be pre-diabetic, you've got concerns about their health, or maybe you're diabetic as well, look, invite your friends and family in so they can be part of the conversation as well. So I've got some big questions for you guys tonight. Okay, I'm going to put you both in the hot seat. First of all, Lynette, shooting the first question your way. Last week we had Steve here from Diabetes Foundation, and the big topic was really talking about diabetes type 2, and I know that's very different from diabetes type 1, so we'll address this one first. Lynette, as a naturopath, you're seeing people with diabetes all the time, with type 2 and type 1. Do you think there's going to be a cure for type 2, or do you think, in your words, can it be prevented? It's a big question.
So a cure, I'm not seeing anything on the horizon for that, for type 1 or for type 2. Once the beta cells are not producing insulin, they're not producing insulin.
Right.
It's really hard to turn the clock backwards.
Yes.
But so as in most things with natural medicine, prevention is the cure. So for me, the more awareness that we have about what we're putting in our mouth and what we do with sugars and what happens to sugar, that's the best preventative medicine. And also, working as we do in clinic by actually, cleaning up the diet and the lifestyle, because for type 2, it's about what you're doing, what's going into your body,
right.
What's happened to create this. We need to work really hard. So definitely not looking at a cure, but there's a lot of support that can be given.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, so Andrew, putting you right in the hot seat right away, okay, straight up. As someone living with type 1 diabetes, first of all, what do you want our viewers to take away from tonight's show? What do you want them to know about type 1? Because we've spent a lot of time with type 2. I believe, 75% of the 250,000 people currently living with diabetes are type 2. So what do you want people to understand about type 1 during tonight's show?
Yeah, so the biggest thing is there's a massive difference between type 1 diabetes and type 2. Type 1 is usually early onset, affecting young children, and it's where the pancreas actually stops working altogether, producing insulin. We've got to take injections daily, and there's no break from it, and it's with us for the rest of our lives. You can't reverse it, and yeah, just a massive difference between the two types of diabetes.
Wow, that's quite a big lifestyle change for somebody, getting diagnosed and then all of a sudden having to go on daily injections. I know we're going to delve into your story very soon, and also talk about the way that you maintain your lifestyle, being type 1 diabetic, and the technology behind that. I'm so excited to share that with you guys tonight. Now, remember, as always, we are live, but we do have to share this disclaimer with you because, of course, while Lynette is a registered naturopath, she is not here to diagnose you tonight. We can't do that through the show. Your best bet, if you have concerns, if anything resonates with you as we discuss signs and symptoms, your best option is actually to talk to your GP, your healthcare provider, and find out what's going on with you. It can be a really simple test to potentially save your life. We are talking about diabetes. This is the 3rd episode in this series, and we are really excited to bring this to you as it is Diabetes Action Month here in New Zealand. And with more than 250,000 people currently living with diabetes, it is time to do something about this and spread the word. So we're going to have a quick chat first and foremost about type 1 and type 2. So Andrew,
yes.
In your words, as somebody living with type 1, can you explain to our viewers what type 1 diabetes actually is?
All right.
Putting you right on the spot
right
tonight.
On the spot. Let's go for it. All right. So type 1 diabetes, as I mentioned just before, it's where the pancreas stops producing insulin. So it requires a person like myself living with type 1 diabetes to take daily injections of insulin. It could be up to from two injections a day up to 6 or more.
Wow.
Or it's using a device called an insulin pump, which feeds a continuous drip of insulin into the body throughout the day. It's also about knowing what we're eating, counting carbs, estimating how many carbohydrates are in every meal we have. There's no break from it. Once we have a guess at the carbs in a meal, like some of these things on the table in front of us, we need to then inject accordingly for that, so we can balance the insulin and the carbohydrate mix.
Okay, so it's your pancreas that produces the insulin, right?
Yep.
I mean, can you have a pancreas transplant? I mean, this is completely new to me.
That'd be wonderful.
I know about type 2. I've grown up with type 2, so I get it.
Yep.
But is there hope in the future for you guys living with type 1? Is that an option?
Currently, there is no option like that to happen. I know there are a lot of companies out there researching, have done for a long time, trying to find a cure for diabetes. So yeah, there's options out there, but in the near future, it's looking pretty grim.
Wow. So it is, once you're sort of diagnosed, and my understanding is it's happening more in the teenage years that people are becoming diagnosed. Is that right?
Yeah, so it can happen any time from, I think the youngest in New Zealand's been about 8 months old and they've been diagnosed, which could be a very tricky time for a family to be able to deal with that. I know for myself, we've got a 13-month-old daughter. If she was diagnosed now, it wouldn't be the end of the world for us. We know how to manage it, but it would be a struggle to keep on top of that. And then it obviously goes right through to adulthood as well. In the recent years, we've seen more people in their late 20s being diagnosed, but predominantly it's sort of between that 5 and 20 age range. 5
and 20 age range. Okay. Now that's very different, Lynette, from type 2.
Oh, absolutely.
So the diagnosis with type 2, I'm understanding, is much older. And rather than just the pancreas going, sort of the autoimmune sort of style of condition with type 1, this is more of a lifestyle generated
It
condition?
generally is. It's more that the diet and lifestyle has been toxic to the pancreas. So you've overloaded with sugar. You have you become insulin resistant. So you can't actually either make enough insulin anymore because the beta cells are not producing it, or you're becoming resistant and your cells are not uptaking the sugars.
Right.
So it's usually because there's just been too much. And things like exercise may not have been there where you're able to utilise your sugars more. So we tend to see people coming in, more of your classic story of they've gotten overweight, they've gotten unhealthy, they've gotten unwell, and then all of a sudden they've lost some weight, and lo and behold, they have diabetes, or they're pre-diabetic, and they've had a simple test at the doctor's, usually around mid-age, and it's they suddenly discover it. And it's something I'd be really encouraging people to do, is actually start asking for diabetes tests. It's nothing to get it done, and just seeing where their blood sugars are from a much younger age, and just seeing if there's a risk in there for them, because that's when you start doing something. Usually.
Fantastic. But how many people are oblivious to the symptoms?
Oh, most of them.
Most people.
And I've also had the situation where I've had people who may not quite understand the implications of being type 2, having type 2 diabetes, and they've actually said to me that, which is kind of sad, I'm pre-diabetic, but there'll be a medicine when I get to this level, and then it will take care of me. And there's this belief in medicine, which is wonderful, but why would you get to a level that you have to have, a drug or insulin injections? That's what I really want people to hear, is that there's so much you can do before you get to that point, because you're stuck there, like type 1, for the rest of your life.
Okay, so let's shoot that back to type 1. How often do you think people are just ignorant to the signs and symptoms, or they don't know what's going on? I mean, in your journey, for example, how did you know that you had type 1 diabetes? What kind of triggered that?
Yeah, sure. So You can't go on forever ignoring it. That's one thing. Your blood sugars, the normal range is between 4 and 8, 4 and 7,
yes.
somewhere around there. And going up above that into the teens and then the high 20s, you're getting into what's called diabetic ketoacidosis.
Wow.
Which is where your body starts producing a lot of ketones, and it will start chewing up all the fat stores and muscle stores.
So you get smaller and smaller.
Yeah. So that's one of the big things that the hospitals are seeing is children coming in, lost a lot of weight, excessive thirst, things like that. And some of the big things that are coming, they're the big symptoms. And in the early stages of it, they can often be misdiagnosed as well. Diabetes New Zealand are doing a big campaign at the moment throughout the GP clinics throughout New Zealand to help identify some of those signs, because some doctors unfortunately aren't picking up or doing the test early enough. So if parents are able to know some of these symptoms, they can ask for a very quick and easy blood test to help diagnose if it's type 1 diabetes or not.
Wow. And so it is more common with younger people, so they're seeing that happening more, because I know you said the age range is sort of 5 to 20. Is that becoming more, are people becoming more aware that this could be going on with their child, or?
Some ways it is, some ways it's not. People sort of think, oh, just sick.
That child's just got no energy, or they're always thirsty, and not actually seeing that as a trigger.
Yes.
Or that real failure. That's what I was meaning about very, very, very thin children. That real failure, like that eat like a horse. Why are they so tiny and thin and scrappy and running out of energy?
Yeah, it's a classic case.
Yeah, some interesting comments that have come through, and I have to share them right now. First of all, the team at My Remedy have just said, hello people, here we all are again, all the best, Kate. Thank you, Kate, great to have you watching. And then on the flip side, a couple of lovely comments have come through. Saxon Rose said, he's a bit of all right.
Hey Saxon, nice to see you watching.
And then Hayley Good just said, is he married? Let me guess, is that your wife?
That would be my wife.
There you go, yeah, perfect. Excellent, so there you go. You are looking a picture of health tonight, Andrew, so there you go, living with type 1 and looking amazing, so we love that. Okay, so we're hearing there's some real different kind of signs or symptoms, but the bulk of the symptoms are pretty much the same. And in fact, we do have a screen that we're going to show you. First of all, we've got a screen here which kind of shows you a little bit, if you haven't seen it before, about the difference between type 1 and type 2. So Lynette, can you just talk around that?
Sure. So you can see the first one, which is type 1 diabetes, and you can see that there is glucose in the bloodstream, but there is absolutely no insulin. So there's nothing to work with the glucose. And then in type 2, it's very, very reduced insulin, and sometimes also on the receptors, they are blocked, so you can't uptake the insulin either.
Right.
So it's a sort of a two-edged sword there.
So you're a practitioner of HemoView, so you can look at people's blood to actually see what's going on, whether they've got parasites in there, whether they're, like I had, my blood cells were kind of collapsing because they were tired and I needed some fish oils and things like that to help my blood. Can you see diabetes in the blood, or is that something that has to be diagnosed by a GP?
No, that needs to be diagnosed with the blood glucose monitor or the HbA1 test.
Okay.
So, yeah, we don't see it. We often will see uncontrolled fats in the blood with diabetes, but it is not diabetes that we're looking at.
Okay, fantastic. Good to know, because, I like to put all the options out there and give people as much information as possible. Now, we're going to talk very quickly through with you type 1. We're going to look at the signs and symptoms of type 1. I believe we've got that coming up on the screen right now. Okay, do you want to just talk through a little bit about your experience there, Andrew, with type 1, and do you know the science behind it? A little bit. I know a little bit of the science, but not the exact science. But I know that the autoimmune immune disease it eats away at the pancreas and the cells that produce the insulin, which help transport the glucose from the bloodstream into the muscles. With type 1, that's obviously insulin is depleted and then eventually disappears altogether, and your body no longer creates it. Right. Very interesting. So let's hit type 2, because I know that's the condition you're working with most in clinic. So we'll just bring that screen up for you now.
So it's called a metabolic disorder, which means it's actually a change in your metabolism. So the way that we're actually metabolizing our sugars changes. So again, it is damage to the beta cells of the pancreas, but it's usually a little bit self-induced from diet, lifestyle. So that's really the main thing, and we start to see those high blood sugars, insulin resistance, that metabolic syndrome that is represented by usually the larger belly, but not always. Okay, very interesting points there. Signs and symptoms.
I mean, this is a big one.
First?
What do people need to keep an eye out for? Who wants to go first? I mean, when you were diagnosed, what were the signs and symptoms you noticed?
Yeah, it was a while ago now. I was 5 years old when it happened.
Really?
So I've had diabetes for a wee while now, and I've seen a lot of the changes in technology especially happening. But when I was first diagnosed, it was really thirsty, really tired, no energy, and losing body weight as well. Those are sort of the classic symptoms. There are a few others to look out for, but those are the major ones to be aware of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, how is that different from type 2?
Well, it's not really, but there's often a lot more goes on, and the person is often much sicker in other ways. But again, it's too much urination, constantly thirsty, can't actually drink enough, super hungry, and often with weight loss as well, and fatigue. It's a little bit different than the type 1, whoops, I just dropped on the floor and need sugar right now. But they're really tired. Not getting their
And we do have a list of the symptoms there on the screen. So if you feel like any of this, if you're ticking the list right there, if you're ticking off the list, I'm not saying anything, but talk to your GP. Because we can't talk about anything. We can't diagnose here, but talk to your GP.
And that non-healing wounds, that's I don't know if that's a type 1 issue, but it's definitely something that happens in type 2. It's a real clue where they're starting to get ulcers that are just not healing. There's just, there's just that poisoning, that blood is not healthy. And also often in type 2 diabetes, I'm not sure about 1 again, they've gone really low in B12, which is, because of gut and digestion. They can't actually feel the injury to their feet. So, you can go...
That's what my father has. Yeah, that's
stand on something, get a wound, can't feel it. Your blood's not cleaning things up as you should, and hey presto, you've got a really nasty infection.
That typically happens with in type 1 as well, with poorly controlled diabetes, where the blood sugars are continually elevated. That leads to those same symptoms. One of the other more funny symptoms of type 1 diabetes is your breath smells a bit fruity as well.
Oh. No, I'm okay. But you made me check.
Yeah, there you go.
Mine just smells of cashew nuts.
It's a really easy one to find out.
Yeah.
If someone comes up to you and they smell fruity, have they just had a lolly, or should they go and get their blood checked?
Wow. Do you notice anything interesting like that with type 2?
No, I don't actually get that close.
Okay, perfect. Good. Perfect. So with both type 1 and type 2, because I'm pitching you each as the experts tonight, with type 1 and type 2, how important is what you eat? So we'll start with type 2, because we've discussed a little bit of this before.
Yeah, to me it's all important because it is a manageable disease. So you sort of manage your way into type 2 diabetes. So, once you get there, there's already some pretty good bad habits created. So it is about looking at, and I'm sure we'll talk about this later, at what's in your food and understanding it, and at your habits and how much you eat, because it's something that you have to turn around and reverse. And also stress and exercise and all of those things, they often have been part of the journey there. So often there's a lot more unravelling to do, a lot more counselling to do, because you've lived your life and I got away with that, I can do that. And all of a sudden, no, you actually can't, and you're on medication and you can't have any treats anymore. So it's not a very nice time for people.
Right. Okay, so how is that different for you? Because obviously you've had this for a couple of years now. Just a couple. And so how important is, you're also training, so you're running your fundraising at the moment for a charity, a diabetes charity? Yeah,
that's right. So I'm myself and my wife Hayley, we're running or competing in the Taupo Half Ironman in 3.5 weeks' time.
Cool.
We're hoping to complete, not actually win, and get across the line, which would be fun. For those of you who don't know, Half Ironman is a 2-kilometre swim followed by a 90-kilometre bike ride and a 21-kilometre run.
I can't even ride a bike. Oh my goodness!
Maybe we'll just do the walking part of it one day.
Yeah, that's true.
So it is a big event, and having diabetes, it's a big balancing act to make sure.
Yeah, how do you sustain your energy throughout that race? Are you having to eat bananas all the time?
Bananas are actually really good. They have a good amount of long-acting carbohydrates in them, so they are definitely part of the plan. But it comes down to a lot of practice, testing and measuring what's actually happening throughout a training session, and be able to balance the amount of insulin being given with the food and nutrition that your body needs to actually sustain through the exercise.
Wow.
So your pre-training is not just about getting fit, it's going, right, when I do 2 hours at this speed, I know this is what happens to my body. So you're managing that all the time, so there's no big surprise.
It's a tricky one, and over this Diabetes Awareness Month this November, November, I've been trying to showcase a little bit what having diabetes is all about through my
That's what I've
Instagram
noticed.
page.
Yeah, that's what I've noticed on social media. It's been great.
It's really about there's everything, all these little bits and pieces that you have to do throughout the day to make sure that the balance is right with the insulin and food. Don't always get it right. Very rarely you get it right. It changes all the time, and you've just got to go with it and make the most out of it and learn from what's happened in the past.
Well, that's truly amazing. Great comment from Amy Lynn, who was supposed to join us tonight. Amy Lynn, shout out to you. She is our nutrition expert on the show. She actually just sent in a message saying no processed foods. But now, we were talking about this before the show, Amy. With type 1, you still eat a little bit of junk food and processed food here and there?
So, Hayley, block your ears, please. On the way down, I did have Macca's for dinner. It's all good. For the type 2s, maybe not a best choice. But having type 1 diabetes, it's not a restrictive thing. It's just one factor you need to think about when you are eating out, when you are doing anything in life, really. And you've just got to be able to balance it and know what the effects are going to be of having a high fat, high carbohydrate meal.
Gotcha. Excellent. So there you go. So Amy Lynn, yes, no processed foods occasionally.
And as a naturopath, I'd say whether you've got type 1 diabetes or you haven't, Macca's is a sometimes food.
Exactly.
Anyway, but what Amy was saying about the processed foods, particularly when we're looking at someone more into it's through diet that we're going to manage it. Processed foods have had their nutrition pretty much processed out of them. So it's just like food-like stuff. Looks like a chicken, tastes like a chicken, but
Probably not.
So getting those real whole foods in, and the foods that, like you say, with bananas, we've got a lot of
sustaining.
goodness. Yeah. It's really important, and
So Sajjad Khan just said, great, thank you for watching the stream tonight. And your wife Hayley just messaged in and said what? What?
I was like, what?
Yeah, you got told off. So that's pretty amazing. Now, Diabetes New Zealand are doing an amazing amount of work to help spread awareness. It is Diabetes Action Month at the moment. So if anything's resonating with you, if you want to find out more, we've got a screen image to show you. You can go onto the diabetes.org.nz website and you can find out more about what they do to support people with diabetes. And also there's a heap of information. You can become a diabetes detective as well. And you can actually find out information, check the signs and symptoms, talk to your family, have that conversation, become the detective in your family and see if you can help yourself and the wellness of your family, because it's not just about you, my friends. It is about your partners, your children, your extended family. It's about your grandparents. It's about your community. So, it is a bit of an epidemic in here, so we need to do everything we can to get that information and that awareness out there. Now, if you are feeling a little bit less than fabulous, perhaps one of the team at My Remedy could help you on your journey to find your way to optimal health. So let's take a look at a little bit behind the scenes and meet the people at My Remedy. We'll take a look right now.
Have you ever considered that symptoms are often the outward sign of something deeper and can just be the body's way of saying, help me? The great news is that even small changes from the inside out can affect your whole health outcome. So, are you ready to make positive changes? The team at My Remedy work with you to find solutions for optimal health and can help you with many health challenges. Their team of qualified and registered naturopaths are there to help with any health condition: gut health, skin conditions, adrenal fatigue and immune health, cardiovascular and men's health, and nutritional health. At My Remedy, they also have a registered homeopath and hypnotherapist who are there to help with the deepest challenges to your health, your beliefs, your fears, your habits and behaviours. So if you're ready to create better health for you and your family, try a different approach. Visit myremedy.co.nz or give them a call on 09486 2175. My Remedy. It's your remedy.
Well, if you've just joined tonight's live stream, no mai haere mai, I'm Monique Bradley here at the YourFixTV studio, and tonight we are talking about the epidemic that is diabetes here in New Zealand. It's Diabetes Action Month. Tonight in the studio, I have the very lovely, talented naturopath, registered naturopath from My Remedy. This is Lynette Hill. Kia ora.
Kia ora. Hello.
And here in the middle, we've got Diabetes Type 1 warrior. This is Andrew Good, who is coming to share his experience of living with diabetes. Hello to you.
Hey.
Hey. All right, so it's a big conversation tonight. I've just had some comments come in. Amy Lynn just said there are a lot of hidden sugars in low-fat foods. Be aware. We're just about to delve into that topic right now, actually. So thank you, Amy Lynn. Lovely to have you here, part of the show virtually.
Yeah, it's good.
Some other comments that have come through. Jackie Van Blurk said, "Awesome work, Andrew." Congratulations,
hey, Jackie.
I think that you're a bit of a favourite on the show tonight.
It's a little bit of a fan club.
I know, right? And Laura Snowden just said, "Yay, Andrew, great job with the awareness. I'm doing my bit too." This is what it's about, right?
Yeah.
Social media is about a giant community where we can actually look out for each other. So let's do this. And that makes me want to tell everybody to share tonight's live stream. In fact, all of these Health Bites streams, particularly this month, we've been talking about diabetes. Please share, please tag people in. If you're associated with a Facebook page that's associated with diabetes anywhere around the world, if you're involved in a Facebook group, please share this, because we're trying to do our bit to help people who may not even know that they have this condition. So we are going to delve into the topic of food. So first of all, Andrew, what do you eat? What can you eat living with type 1 diabetes?
Anything.
Awesome.
Quick answer, anything.
Anything?
Yeah, anything. Obviously having a healthy diet and a healthy lifestyle is the key to anything, any life. Diabetes or type 1 diabetes is just another factor I have to encounter throughout the day. Eating breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, just have to make sure I'm balancing what I'm eating with the right amount of insulin being put into me.
Right. So with your experience working with type 2 predominantly in your clinic in Milford, how important is educating people about what they eat?
Probably far more so, because again it's up to you to manage it now, because if you're at a pre-diabetic stage, there's every chance of reversing it. So food becomes massively important, and that's where Amy, who was just on before, will sort of talk to their people, her patients, about real food, whole food that's going to provide a lot of goodness, not processed, low sugars, low carbs if necessary, getting protein in there and getting it balanced, not too much of anything. And also, managing those small portions to keep the energy a little bit more uniform through the day. I also like to talk to people about stress, because if you're really stressed, which you usually are when you get any kind of diagnosis, and beforehand, you're not digesting your food at the best of times. So it's about getting, chewing it, smelling it, digesting it.
Getting the gut going properly as well.
Absolutely, yeah. And there's a lot of factors involved in that. It's not just food. It's food, exercise, lifestyle. It's the whole lot.
And so is it similar with type 1? So does, say, the effects of stress affect type 1 diabetes as well? Do you notice spikes in your blood sugar?
Yeah, stress, exercise, food all plays a part in the level of blood sugar throughout the day. Sometimes your blood sugars go high for no apparent reason. It's just one of those things you have to continually manage.
Wow, that's
and it's
truly amazing.
It's so different with type 1, because if I get stressed, I might chew through my food a little bit more or not digest it. But if you get stressed and you're actually having a big impact and your body's, asking for more sugar just to get going, it has a really big impact on you. And some of the things that we look at when our patients with type 1 come in is it's usually not being well managed. So they've got their insulin, they're just going, oh, it's all over the place, and they haven't sort of put two and two together. Like, when you do your exercise that how much food you need to eat and when you need to hit the insulin. So it's about getting the brain involved with the body, and we also work sometimes with some basic things to just kind of try and trim out the sugar spikes, just so that they can be more healthy with their management. Not eating McDonald's every day.
Sometimes do.
Sorry, no, you carry on.
The other thing is having those spikes or the high blood sugars, the low blood sugars. It really affects performance and everything. Exercise, mental awareness, being able to concentrate at work, all those things that really affect. So if your blood sugar's not in that ideal range of sort of 4 to 7, then chances are you're not able to perform to your best ability.
And how many times throughout the day, I know we've got some wearable tech that you're going to show everybody shortly, but how many times a day would you normally check your blood sugar?
So it's recommended about 6 times a day.
Wow.
To do a blood glucose test.
I did not know that.
It's a big deal. It's a big
deal.
Work.
It's getting a finger pricker out, doing a finger prick, getting some blood out of your finger, putting it onto a meter, and doing something about that. And the only downside to doing a finger prick is it's a value at a point in time. So you could do a finger prick right now and it could be 7.1. But I don't know what context that's in. I mean, I've had dinner about 45 minutes ago, so what's actually happening? So that's where the awesome wearable tech comes in the diabetes world. And I know you've been waiting for this one.
I know, I'm so excited. Firstly, because we don't want to peak too soon. Amy Wilkins has just suggested that, Amy Lynn has suggested white flour and simple carbs are best avoided, particularly for type 2, right?
Yes.
And also she said keep away from margarine. Again, you're talking about the processed foods. Very interesting.
I'd love her to actually say why.
Yes.
Amy, tell us why.
Amy, share it in the newsfeed. Okay, so we've got some food. Andrew, we've got some pretty surprising foods here, which I thought would be quite healthy, and there's a lot of hidden sugars in here. And I know one of the things you do with type 1 is you actually have to carry around sugar with you. Mm-hmm. So I want to have a look at that.
So for me, I usually carry what's called dextro tablets around with me. They're, if you get one out, if I find where to open it. So when the blood sugar is low, each of these tablets, there's about 4 grams of glucose in them.
Wow.
So munch down a few of them, and some longer acting carbs will usually fix the low, depending on how
longer acting carbs. Are you talking, say, kurma or something like that?
If you want to get that technical, you could just go for a muesli bar.
A muesli bar. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, no, that's cool, because these are the things that I don't know. That's truly amazing. So you're coming from the type 2 diabetes, where you're saying get rid of sugar.
Well, reduce it a whole lot. Because if you look at the recommendations from the World Health Organization, it's around about 6 to 7 teaspoons of sugar. So we had a look at, for the show, it's quite fun actually, just how much sugar is in some things. And also a trick for new players is that a lot of our low-fat foods are high in sugar. So people go, oh, it's a diet product, so therefore... Yeah.
That's exactly what Amy Lynn actually messaged in as well.
I do listen to you, Amy.
Yeah.
So we had a look at some really basic things. So this could be a breakfast for somebody. And so there's some baked beans there. And how many did they have in them? About 4 teaspoons of sugar.
4 teaspoons per serving. So you can see all the sugar in there.
Yeah.
That's quite a lot. That's almost your entire daily intake.
It is. So if you have some baked beans and then you have, say, some juice, vegetable juice, or any kind of juice, but even some of the whole natural juices, they can have 4 or 5 teaspoons in them as well. So you think, oh, I'm having my healthy juice and my healthy baked beans and, you know, maybe a piece of fruit. And you're probably at about 8 teaspoons of sugar. And this is what's really hard for people to understand when they're actually having to suddenly severely restrict sugar, is that it's hidden in everything. You know, in a lot of low-fat products, there's hardly any fat, but there's a whole lot of sugar in there to give it the flavour.
Yes, of course.
And so it is about, unless you can work it out yourself, you've got to read labels. You know, the diabetes website has got some good ideas of how much sugar is in things. There's movies like, you know, What the Sugar, and
I think
Amy was talking about something called Raw. There's lots and lots of really good videos.
That sugar film, I think that's a new one as well.
Yeah, and actually seeing where it is. And I think that's really important, because we're not saying you can't eat anything, but we're just saying be aware of where the sugar is if you're meant to be avoiding it.
So with you with type 1, how aware do you have to be of sugars? I mean, I'm looking at something like, say, this is a breakfast drink and there was 6 teaspoons of sugar in there. We've got here, this is ginger beer. I'm not going to say the name. All of that sugar right there.
I mean,
there was 13 teaspoons
you wouldn't
of
just
sugar.
Sit there and chow down on that sugar,
no, you
would
wouldn't.
you? Even with your pump.
No.
Yeah, I mean, how aware are you of the sugars? Do you have to be aware of that all the time?
Yeah, it's a necessity, really. You have to be aware of what sugars, or it's more about the total carbohydrates. We look at sugar's just one part of that equation, but the total carbohydrates is what we look at, and the amount of insulin we take is directly proportional to the amount of grams of carbohydrates in a meal. That
is so good, which kind of leads us into the technology behind managing type 1. I think this is a really good time to do it.
Just to let you know,
a piece of fruit, 1 to 3 teaspoons of sugar. Something like we've got a vegetable and fruit juice there over towards Lynette that had 5 teaspoons of sugar in there.
Yeah.
So be really mindful. Start reading the backs of packets. Have a look at how much sugar you're ingesting. So coming back to you, Mr. Type 1 Warrior, you're amazing. You've got some wearable tech, and I just think this is incredible because you can't see it. You cannot see it, and yet you're like Iron Man. The Iron Man for diabetes. So talk us through how you use technology to maintain your health.
Yeah, sure. Or you could put it like the guy at the pool said a couple of weeks ago, you're missing a few wires there.
Oh.
Because it does kind of look like that, because
That's incredible.
if we start pulling things out, we've firstly got the insulin pump. So we've got a small reservoir of insulin there, which lasts for about 3 days. 3-day supply in there. So the insulin pump drip feeds every few minutes a small dose of insulin, which we call our background insulin or our basal insulin. So that covers us throughout the day. If we don't eat anything, then that will keep our blood sugars in range if it's correctly programmed.
Right. And so you add your carbohydrates into this machine?
Yeah, so if I was to sit down and have a glass of ginger beer, I know roughly, depending on which brand, and you always look at the label to have a look at the total grams of carbohydrates. All I do is just open up my pump and dial up to the number of grams of carbohydrates and press go.
That is truly incredible.
Push all the insulin straight into me.
So where does that, from this, because I can see you're connected with a wire. Are you happy to show where it goes?
So here's one of the wires, and that just goes into a site.
Look at that.
Which sits in my stomach. So it does come off, but that just sits there, gets changed every 3 days. There's a small Teflon needle that sits just under the skin.
That's incredible.
That's great.
And it sits in there for 3 days. Every 3 days you take it out and put a new one in.
So when you went to the swimming pool,
Yep.
what did you do? Because you can't take that in the water, can you? What did you do? Did you just pop that off and go swimming like normal?
So just pop it off and...
Like a normal person.
No, I mean, you are a normal person. No, do you know what I mean? It's like, can you take it in the water? Do you do that? Because this is so new to me.
This particular model is splash proof or dunk proof. So if you dunk it, it can come out and it should survive. There's another model of pump on the market which they do advertise as being waterproof.
Oh, that's good.
It's incredible.
Actually, where would you put it when you're swimming? And it gets snagged on a lot of things.
So true.
So it doesn't really matter. But they do last pretty well, pretty sturdy. They're attached 24/7.
Amazing. Now, how does this monitor? So that's for you to be able to monitor how much you're eating, so you can monitor that yourself.
Yep.
How does it check your blood sugar levels, though?
Yeah, so this just injects the insulin into me.
Right.
Blood sugar testing up until very recently used to be a finger prick, and as I said before, it's a point-in-time result. Recently, we've now got these little discs that are still on the back of the arm.
Wow. What's that called?
It's called a Freestyle Libre.
That's what Steve was talking about last night, and he wants every person with type 1 diabetes to have this free. Funded by Pharmac, right? That was the words he used, I believe.
So Pharmac started funding insulin pumps about 4 or 5 years ago, and the amount of people have been able to get onto insulin pumps and see the benefits of actually being able to control their diabetes a lot more easily than having to do injections every meal.
Yes.
And the reduction in HbA1cs, it's just been a phenomenal exercise that they've gone through.
Wow.
Really hoping to see Pharmac, if you're listening. We want to see these guys funded for all type 1 diabetics, please. They just make a huge difference, because instead of seeing just what my blood sugar is right now, I can just turn it on, little wave across the arm, use the same kind of technology as PayWave, and it actually gives me a trend. I'm not sure if you can see that up close. Bit of a roller coaster today, up and down. But
it's the stress of being on TV.
It's the stress of being on TV. I've been freaking out all day.
Oh, right.
But from this...
It's not that scary, really.
It's not too bad.
No.
From this, I can actually see that right now my blood sugar is stable at 13.1. Earlier today, I could see it was dropping really quickly, and I could actually do something before it got into a situation where it would be a big issue for me. So I could see that happening.
That's incredible. It just blows my mind. So Pharmac, shout out to you guys. Do something good for our community. Do something good for our people living with type 1. These need to be funded. There's not a huge amount of people in New Zealand with type 1.
And particularly the children.
Good. The children.
So hard for them. It's, we are saying a colleague of mine we would look after her daughter, and we'd have to, if she was going to a disco and she'd be sneaky, we'd get the phone call and we'd have to balance things out and measure things and what does she need to eat, and I think we gave her 2 injections at night and 1 in the morning, and it was really stressful for me. And she took it all in her stride, but I think it was, stressful for her sometimes too.
Wow. So with this piece of technology that you wear, how often has that changed?
So this one lasts 2 weeks. If you're lucky, you can get it snagged on doorways and taking clothes off. They do get in the way a bit, especially the insulin pump with the cable on it. Walking past a doorknob a bit too close can rip it out, which does kind of hurt.
That would hurt.
And before they were funded, it was quite an expensive mistake.
Oh, right.
These ones here, they cost a bit of money too. It costs about $50 a week just to run that. So it's a cost that does add up. So Pharmac, please.
Do what you can do. How can people find out about this technology? Should they go to the diabetes.org.nz website?
Yeah.
Or would it be their diabetes nurse that would help them find their way to this sort of technology?
Yeah, so the diabetes website, your nurse specialists and hospital staff, they're able to help out, or you can buy directly from mediray.co.nz. They're the local suppliers in New Zealand.
Perfect. Excellent. We love to hear that, and that's keeping you guys up to date. Just checking on the news feed here. A question from our friend Raja over in Kashmir in India. He's just said, is there any possibility one can be diabetic despite the fact the bloke has left the sugar long ago? So it's an interesting question. So somebody could, they've changed their diet. Can they still be diabetic? I suppose with type 1, yeah, they can, right?
Oh, you are.
You're never going to lose it.
No, that's right.
It's with you for life.
Yes, and if you're type 2, you are diabetic as well. It's still a different form of diabetes, totally different, but you have lost the ability to look after the sugars as you should. So, the fact that you're not eating sugar anymore is great, but you still would have an issue if you were to reintroduce it.
So I hope that answered your question, Raja. Great to have you on tonight's stream. So Amy Lynn's messages, right. If you could see the chemical structure of margarine, you would see that it doesn't fit or connect with any of our body structures. The body gets confused and doesn't know what to do with it. It's often got petrol chemicals in it as well, making more toxins for the liver to deal with. That's a big one, Amy.
And that's a good reason to just eat
real
butter,
food.
Real food. Like, have a look at it, and if it's got more than 2 or 3 ingredients, it's not real food anymore. It's something else. It's made from once upon a time real food or things that look like food. So I'd always say just get as close to nature as possible. It usually tastes better. You need to know what it was and what it is.
I love it. Fantastic stuff. So Andrew, very quickly before we hit our next break, have you ever tried other therapies to go with your type 1 diabetes, or when you were diagnosed that was your only option?
That is really the only option for type 1. You have to have insulin to keep the blood sugars in range. Obviously the technology has changed over the years, over the 25 years that I've had diabetes now. Even doing a finger prick is about 5 or 6 times quicker than it used to be. And just all the technology and the way that technology is speeding up progress, it's just amazing. Hopefully we'll see closed loop systems in the near future.
Wow.
But at the end of the day, you need to be provided with insulin.
Yeah,
There's
definitely.
nothing else.
Okay, so with type 2, how can, say, natural medicine or something like that help with somebody with type 2, or should they be on insulin straight away? You can't really
There's
diagnose.
kind of a stepping stone where you might start with metformin to get the body trying to respond better. That's usually when you're in that resistance stage. We would also, as a naturopath at that point, that's where we really like to be consulted. And we would use, there's some really specific herbs I've bought it. I can't show you what they are.
Yes.
But there are some, therapeutically valid herbs, and the names are things like Glynordica and Gymnema. They can be bitters and things that just help you to reduce your sugar cravings, uptake your sugar more easily, chromium, which can shift your sugars more easily. So they're just helping your body to respond better to it, but not if you just keep on eating it. And it's not just sugar, it's the white stuff, the white bread, the white rice.
Processed foods.
Yeah, because we can't just go, right, there's this many carbs, let's give you this much insulin. It's not there yet. So it's all about management. And, there are some things, if you're starting to find that your sugars are going up and down and you're starting to get a bit, concerned, and you found out that you're just getting towards pre-diabetes, some of the teas that are available, they are really valuable. And if you don't know how to do it, then that's when I say go and get some advice from someone who knows. And there's plenty of us who know what to do.
That's so true. And on that topic, we do have to say a big thank you to the people at South Pacific College of Natural Medicine. They're actually creating the new generation of natural medicine practitioners, your naturopaths, your medical herbalists, homeopaths as well?
No
homeopaths?
Not through there.
Naturopath and medical herbalists.
Yes.
Fantastic. And they are in training right now, and they need to help you. So we're going to show you a little bit behind the scenes at what South Pacific College of Natural Medicine does and give you an insight into how they can help you and help your community. Let's take a look right now.
Welcome to Power Clinic. I'm Robin Carruthers, the Clinic Director. The Power Clinic is a student clinic at the South Pacific College of Natural Medicine. We've got two main functions here. One is to give our students a really good educational experience. They're the ones who staff the clinic, and they are supervised by experienced practitioners, naturopaths and medical herbalists. Our other role, which is more important, is to provide the community with affordable natural health care. So we have free visits for under 6-year-old children and for people over 65, and our other adult normal fees are heavily subsidised. We see a whole range of people here at Power Clinic, people who've got just minor health complaints, who want to look at a wellness plan, right through to people who are on a range of medications and have quite serious health conditions. A lot of people think with natural health care that if you're taking medications you can't go to a naturopath, but in fact we're very careful to take that into account and to work around it and support people while they are taking medications that they need to take. So if this sounds like it might be of interest to you, please give us a call and we'll look forward to seeing you and to helping you on your health journey.
Well, it is almost time for us to head away. Look, I really want to say thank you to all of you for joining us in the newsfeed, sending in your questions, your comments, and being part of the show, because we really want to spread that message of get yourself, notice the signs and symptoms, get yourself tested, do something for you and for your health, because it's not just you that diabetes affects. It's your friends, it's your family, it's your children. Do it for all of them, and let's see if we can make some changes in the community. So before we head away tonight, I've learnt so much. Thank you, Andrew, for being with us. I've learnt so much about type 1, and my understanding was that, well, when you've got type 1, that's it. But you are an amazing example. You lead an incredibly active life. You eat everything, and you wear technology to ensure you maintain an optimal life. What's the message you'd really love for people to take away from tonight?
Sure. Don't let diabetes stop you from what you want to do. It's not a restricting factor. It's just a factor that you need to take into account when you are planning to do anything. Make sure you know the signs. Be great to have fewer children going to hospital into the DKA where their blood sugars are really high. So if your child is really thirsty, losing weight, really hungry, fruity breath, any of those sort of things, ask your GP to have a blood test done to test for diabetes.
And you're doing work with Diabetes Youth, is that right?
Yes, I work with Diabetes Youth Auckland. So we put on a lot of events throughout the year. Our next one coming up is a children's camp for 9 to 12-year-olds at Long Bay in Auckland.
Wow.
We have roughly 50 kids who come along to that, and they get a lot out of it. They can see from us adult volunteers who all got type 1 diabetes as well. They learn a lot from us. They learn a lot about themselves. They learn how to do their first injections, their first pump site changes.
Wow.
It's all about independence and learning how to live life to the fullest, even though you do have another factor to take into account.
And how can people support Diabetes Youth? How can through Facebook? Can they like the Facebook page?
Yeah, so come along. The Diabetes New Zealand Facebook page, the Diabetes Youth Auckland Facebook page, great places to start, get a lot of good information out of them. There's also a lot of private groups out there for parents, for teens, for support people. Great place to ask questions and get support through the community.
Excellent, thank you so much. Lynette, before we head away, what's the big message? Is you've been interfacing with people in your clinic. you know, people who are pre-diabetic or gestational diabetes, or, you know, they're just getting into having type 2 diabetes. What's the big message you want people to take away from this series of episodes on this topic?
Two things. One is you are what you eat, so you should be really cautious about what you put in your mouth. And the other is if you have any symptom of any disease, and particularly that trifecta, you know, urination and thirst and
tiredness.
No, it was the hunger. Yeah,
the hunger.
Any of those symptoms, it's such a simple thing. Just go and get it checked out. And if it's something that you need medication for, we've got, like, you know, RoboCop here. He's got all of his
the warrior.
Yeah.
Andrew the warrior.
You know, just get onto it and get well again.
I love that. Look, I really have to thank you guys for joining us. If you've missed any of the episodes, so this is episode number 3 in our series on diabetes. There is so much information in every episode. They will be re-screening next week, all 3 back to back. So you can actually join us on whatever newsfeed you're watching on tonight. Join us, still ask questions. Lynette and I will be on the streams doing all the moderating, so feel free to ask questions. And if we can't answer it for you during the news feed, we will find out the details and we'll put those answers into our Health Bites Facebook group. Now you can join that just in the Facebook under your search engine, just search for Health Bites. And you'll be able to find us. There are practitioners, health practitioners in that group, so feel free to ask any questions, not just regarding tonight's topic, but anything to do with your own journey, finding your way to optimal health. Right, time for us to head away. A big thank you to the wonderful people behind tonight's show and to everybody who brings this together. Firstly, Pete Ward from YourFixTV, who is behind the scenes tonight doing all the camera changing and making the sound happen. Thanks, Pete, you do a great job. Also, a big thank you to the people at South Pacific College of Natural Medicine. We love you guys. We love what you do. Thanks for creating a new generation of wonderful practitioners that are working through the Power Clinic there. If you do want to have a consultation, please chat to the people at Power Clinic, all the details there on the screen, or consider contacting the team at My Remedy. They are incredibly talented, very gifted at what they do, incredibly knowledgeable, and look, it's a great way to find your way to feeling good. Thanks again for being part of the show. Send us your questions in the Facebook group and tell us, what do you want to see? We're ready to open up the floor and have a conversation with you. And remember, share the show. We want to really share the message of health and wellness. And remember, Health Bites is all about finding your way to happiness and health, one bite-sized morsel at a time. Thanks, team, for joining me tonight.
No worries, thank you.
And thank you guys for watching. Take care, love one another, and we'll see you with next week's rebroadcast. Ka kite anō inohora.